With inflation, instability, and a growing number of other concerns plaguing many people in America, it is not surprising that voting isn't on the forefront of people's minds. According to a study done by the Pew Research Center, nearly two-thirds of Americans say they always or often feel exhausted when thinking about politics, while over half report feeling angry. Given these concerns and the sentiment that politics inspires in US citizens, it is unsurprising that approximately 36% of eligible voters did not vote in the 2024 election. Audible and the Loop Lab have collaborated on a series exploring different aspects of elections in the city of Cambridge. Leading up to the 2024 election, we took to the streets of Cambridge and explored the idea of how unmet survival needs lead to an increase in voter empathy. We explored the local population's feelings on elections, with particular care to those who are already struggling to cope day to day.
My name is Paul. I do all kinds of funky jobs, so I feel weird saying like an occupation, but yeah, happy to be here.
Well, my name is Marietta Majors. I'm an undergrad student at UMass Boston studying psychology. I'm also pre-medicine.
Good question. I would say big one that I find is just with employment. I think that can be a really huge issue. I'm lucky that I have various employers that are understanding of voting and everything like that and will have accommodations. But I really think having election day being like a national holiday and require, have it treated like, I don't know, like Memorial Day, Labor Day, something like that, would make a huge difference because I don't think it's fair to rely on an employer to kind of do the right thing. That doesn't always happen.
As it pertains to local elections, the biggest difference I can think of between that and presidential elections is the publicity and just the knowledge of them taking place. Everyone knows that the presidential election occurs around this time, but when it comes to local elections, it's more difficult to obtain information as to when those things take place, never mind where. I think when you have local elections that are already hard to obtain information about, and you have to make a decision between doing things to sustain your daily life and going out of your way to acquire more information about the circumstances and whereabouts of local elections, people will choose to provide for themselves and take care of their immediate needs first. And I think that's kind of exacerbated by the fact that a lot of people, when they vote, they feel as though the things they're voting about don't matter much. They feel like their voice, their thoughts, their opinions don't really matter.
I would say the biggest challenge is probably transportation. I would also say that a lot of signing up to register happens online. Not everybody has access to online resources to figure that stuff out.
I think homelessness and financial instability definitely can be a major factor just in terms of motivation in general, because I think just being in such a state like that can just cause just crippling cynicism of just your government, whether local or more centralized, I guess. And so I think that can play a factor. I know that, addresses can, again, it can be a really huge factor in terms of figuring stuff out like that. And in Massachusetts we do have the ability to um, request like mail-in ballots and stuff like that. And so obviously, if you don't have, an address that you feel comfortable, or, or you think you'll be able to get something like that, is, difficult.
When I think of a time where I was struggling financially, so right now, and I think of my motivation to get more information and about, candidates that I want to vote for in the upcoming election, or policies that I want to vote on. If I'm struggling, I'm going to choose to do things to alleviate the stress that my struggles are causing me. And I think in situations of financial strife, voting isn't always as alleviating as people say it is when it comes to your personal struggles, especially financially. Yeah, I also think people struggling with homelessness tend to have other comorbidities, such as mental or physical health conditions, that not only make it difficult to sit and think about voting, but make it actively difficult to go to the polls and cast your vote.
It depends in which I guess where in local politics. I do think the city council, I know that there are various councilors that, give their number out to people in their communities and are like, if you need me, just call me and I'll be there, which I think is actually really cool. And especially, in Boston, I think that's not a sense of community that you see that often. I think there are parts of local politics where that's definitely, where the elected officials definitely are impacting your day-to-day survival.
Even looking at the ballot for our state that I will be answering when I go to vote, I see that these issues are kind of important, but the overwhelming majority of them will have absolutely almost no impact on my daily life. And while I do understand that, the process of signing things into law that are effective at alleviating societal issues is very complex, it feels very ridiculous to see some of the questions on there. And it feels kind of performative. I'm still struggling financially. My whole household is still struggling financially. And we're not jobless. We're all working. It's very difficult to survive these days, more so than I have experienced generally in the past.
I think the main problems people have is just getting good information, especially now with all the social media platforms.
It's very difficult to find information. And this is on voting.
It's hard to really understand, I guess, what you're voting for, or who you're voting for, and really what they're going to actually bring to the table come the election. I think there's a lot of decisions that get made that affect people, and not everybody even fully realizes what decisions are being made. So
I think my answer there is split. I think there is a good amount of people that do feel voter apathy just because, we've seen the pattern of politics within the past few decades. Corporations have more of a priority over people. And so I think people see that and see where money and resources are allocated to, and, feel like their lives and their survival needs are not treated as a priority, that their needs are treated as wants, versus corporations where their wants are treated as needs.
I think of people experiencing challenges, apathy is definitely present, but I also believe that some people become more involved in politics as part of their struggles in order to find some relief. But it would not surprise me if those people who were paying more attention and putting more time into politics became more apathetic than people who didn't, if their needs were not being met despite the effort they're putting in. I don't think enough outreach is done in the state of Massachusetts as it pertains to the local, any sort of voting processes that take place here.
Do you feel like many people are aware of the local ballots?
I honestly don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's something that kind of, we spend a lot of time focusing more on, like, you know, the federal level, the president, everything that we often overlook a lot of the local change.
Even thinking about this upcoming election, I see very little information in public, in my neighborhood at least, about voting centers, about, you know, the ballot questions, about anything. The most I've seen is signs in people's front yards with their preferred candidate's name on them. I don't see anything from the state or from the city.
Voting advocates encouraging everyone to vote, including some groups that, you know, you may not have thought about. NBC 10 political reporter Matt Pritchard joins us live from Newton. Matt, I know there's a big effort surrounding unhoused voters.
Yeah, JC, this is a segment of the population that's often forgotten about. But if you are a Massachusetts resident and you meet certain criteria, you have a right to have your voice heard right here at the ballot box.
Things just piled up on me.
A story of struggle that's become all too common.
It was just one thing after another. Hopefully I can work things out and get back on my feet.
In order for people struggling to have their basic needs met to feel as though their vote counts, they need to feel like they count, that they matter. And when they're struggling just to survive, who feels like they matter? Who wakes up in the morning knowing they have to work from sunrise to sunset and come home and take care of their families and do it all again the next day? Who does that and feels like they matter? Who goes through that and then says to themselves, oh, you know, my state officials really care about me. You know, the people I vote for really care about me and are helping me address my needs. No one. No one feels that way. So in order to alleviate that disconnect and that apathy, that voter apathy, you need to help these people meet their needs.
The 2024 election fast approaching.
When you go and ask a person to register to vote that's homeless, you better come with something.
We want them to feel proud of being part of a community again and voting.
Efforts are underway to make sure the often overlooked group finds their way to the ballot box.
In order for that to occur, a very long, drawn-out, and arduous process would need to take place. In my opinion, a complete political reform.
Throughout our conversations with Cambridge residents, we've seen how day-to-day struggles often take precedence over civic engagement. Financial instability, employment insecurity, and limited access to information have emerged as key factors contributing to voter apathy in our community. Given these struggles, it's unsurprising why voting might not be a priority for many. However, it is often local elections that have the most direct impact on citizens' daily lives. Every voice matters in shaping our collective future. While local authorities and organizations have taken steps to address the issue, there remains work to be done. We need to build a community where civic participation is not just a right, but an accessible reality for all, regardless of their circumstances.